Good evening, friends. Welcome to Kirtan and Stories with Ananda, Sacramento. For anyone who doesn't know us, my name is Swami Suryadas, and this is my wife, Swami Chandi. And it is our joy and our blessing to be with you this evening, sharing in our Guru's teachings and in his vibration. This evening, the theme for this evening's program will be Guru Purnima, which is a celebration of all of our teachers in life, but especially of the Guru, the Satguru. The Satguru is one who is one with God. They have been through all that we've been through, and they have come out the other side. They have realized their oneness with all that is and with the presence of God. They are fully liberated from karma. They are no longer compelled to come back to this world, but they do so anyway because they want to help us to also achieve that freedom and that enlightenment that they enjoy. So this evening, we will honor our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, and also the idea of the Guru and the idea of the Guru principle, which I will say more about shortly. So we will have some chanting and some stories and commentary and some brief periods of meditation, and we will end, as we always do, with a flower ceremony. But today, this is especially pertinent because it is a custom in India for Guru Purnima for people to practice what is called puja. And it could be offering a flower to the Guru, it could be offering water to the Guru, it could be offering light to the Guru. So we'll have a flower ceremony to end. If you have a flower available, you can grab it. And if you don't, you can simply visualize a flower offering. So let's begin with a prayer, invoking the presence of God and Gurus. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, Great Masters of Self-Realization, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahasaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, and our beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, saints and sages of all religions, humbly we lay the flowers of our devotion, gently at thy feet. Divine Mother, we thank you for your presence in our lives. And we thank you for sending the Guru. To show us the way to realize our oneness with thee. Help us to tune into your light. By tuning into the light of the Guru. Help us to tune into your love. Through our own love of the Guru. And through his love for us. Fill our lives with thy presence. And help us to share thy presence. With everyone we meet. With all the world. We are forever yours. Be thou always ours. Bring us home to thee. Om. Peace. Amen. We'll chant now.
Hymn to the Brahma. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat, Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Brahmantam Paramasakaram Kevalam Jnanamurti Padochitam Gagana Sadisham Tasma Shri laksham nityam nityam vivalamachalam sarvade sakshibhutam paratitam trigunarahitam satguru tvanamami. Full of bliss, giving joy, transcendence of higher knowledge, the above. Dual nor no more, clear as the heavens, known to us as thou art, that he is pure, permanent, unmoving, the everlasting seer of all, far, far beyond qualities and thoughts. Guru, Lord, I bow to thee. Guru, Lord, I bow to thee. Twameva Mata Japita Twameva, Twameva Bandhu Jasika, Twameva, Twameva Vidya Dravinam, Twameva, Twameva Sarvam Mamo Deva Deva. Thou art my mother, thy father, thou art my brother, like a friend, thou art my wisdom, my wealth, thou art my all, light of lights art thou. Twameva Mata Japita Twameva, Twameva Bandhu Jasika, Twameva, Twameva Vidya Dravinam, Twameva, Twameva Sarvam Mamo Deva Deva. Thou art my mother, thy father, thou art my brother, like a friend, thou art my wisdom, my wealth, thou art my all, light of lights art thou art my all, light of lights art thou art my all, light of lights art
Now we'll chant Sri Yogananda, singing to the Guru, calling on the Guru to be within us and without us, blessing our lives, guiding our lives.
Sri Yogananda, guides you inner freedom, steer into my heart of hopes, banish my illusions. Sri Yogananda, guide you inner freedom, steer into my heart of hopes, banish my illusions. Shri Yogananda, guide you inner freedom, steer into my heart of thoughts, banish my illusions. Shri Yogananda, guide you inner freedom, steer into my heart of thoughts, banish my illusions. Shri Yogananda,
Let's meditate together for about 5 minutes. Om. Peace. Amen. As I mentioned earlier, the theme for this evening's program is Guru Purnima. And this is a time in India where people gather to celebrate the teachers in their lives, and especially, as I said earlier, to celebrate the Satguru, that one who is awakened, who has come to help us to find God, to realize our oneness with all that is, and to realize the joy of the soul, Satchidananda, ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. The Guru principle is said to be 1,000 times stronger than Guru Purnima. And Guru Purnima officially was the full moon that was a couple days ago.
Wednesday.
Was Wednesday, yes, a couple days ago, which would be Wednesday. And during this time, there is this thing called the Guru principle, and it is very, very strong. And I'm going to read something I found online. When the Guru principle is in action, an individual feels rested in their own nature and one with the universe, increasing in wisdom, love, and connection with all living things. The Guru principle has been described as a guiding light, prompting individuals toward finding truth, wisdom, and ultimately enlightenment. In the Holy Science, Swami Sri Yukteswar describes two forces that happen in the universe, and one takes us into more separateness, out into the world. It takes us into the senses. It strengthens ego. And the other one draws us back to our true nature, which is a state of oneness. Oneness with all that is, oneness with God, oneness with that pure consciousness. And this is the Guru principle. It is this force that draws us to want to know God. It draws us to want to turn towards the light, to turn away from the things of the world. And Divine Mother teaches us and touches our lives through this Guru principle in many ways. In the beginning, she gives us our parents. The parents are there to kind of teach us what is right and wrong and to show us our way in life. And we also have friends and schoolmates as we're growing up, and they teach us lots of things as well, and we learn through our interactions with them. And of course, we have actual teachers in school, professors in college, and they introduce us to ideas about how we should live, about what's important in life. They help us to find ways to make a living in life, which is also important. Then we have our priests and religious teachers, and they introduce us to higher ideals. They introduce us to the idea that there is more to this life than just what we experience through the senses. There's more to this life than just finding a way to support ourselves, to put food on the table, to take care of our families. All those things are important, but there's more. We can transcend this reality. We can experience a higher reality. And then the Guru comes, the Satguru, that one who is enlightened. And they have already been through everything that we're going through, and they've come out the other side. They have freedom. They have God's presence. And so they know better than anyone else how to guide us and how to show us the way to find that freedom in our own lives. And one who is enlightened, such as Yogananda, has overcome time and space. And so they can see where we've been, they can see where we're going, and they know better than we do what we need in our lives to take the next step forward in our spiritual lives. And then there's one final other aspect to the Guru principle. Once we are enlightened, we have what they call the inner master. Once we're enlightened, we have our own inner realization, and so we're one with God, and in a sense, we become the Guru ourselves, which does not disconnect our relationship with the Guru, which is forever. But we also kind of become our own Guru for ourselves in our own right when we reach that point. The word Guru comes from two words, Gu and Ru, and this is a Sanskrit word. The root Gu means darkness or ignorance, and Ru means remover of that darkness. So the Guru is one who removes the darkness of ignorance. So on the day of Guru Purnima, one offers puja to the Guru. And as I said earlier, this can be in the form of light. You see when we do arati and you're holding the candle up and you're offering light to the Guru, you're also drawing light from the Guru. It can be a flower ceremony such as we will do at the end of our evening today. It could be an offering of water. It can be any kind of offering, just an offering of the heart. Of course, the outer ritual isn't as important as how it affects the heart, how we offer ourselves to the Guru, how we invite the Guru to come into our lives and to guide us. In the beginning of the Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, the very first paragraph reads in this way: "The characteristic features of Indian culture have long been a search for ultimate verities and the concomitant disciple-guru relationship. My own path led me to a Christ-like sage whose beautiful life was chiseled for the ages. He was one of the great masters who are India's sole remaining wealth. Emerging in every generation, they have bulwarked their land against the fate of Babylon and Egypt." This is the gift that India has given to the world, the gift of the Guru-disciple relationship. So how do we honor the Guru other than doing these pujas and such? We honor the Guru by offering our unconditional love. You may remember that when Yogananda met, I mentioned this in Sunday service a couple weeks ago because it was a similar topic, but you might remember when Yogananda met his Guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar, Swami Sri Yukteswar said, "I give you my unconditional love. Will you do the same for me?" And Yogananda said, "I give you my unconditional love." And those of us who are disciples of Yogananda or another Guru have made this commitment when we became disciples. But it is a commitment that we need to make moment to moment. Yogananda said that the minutes, the seconds are more important than the years on the spiritual path. We need to call on the Guru to be with us, and we need to offer our love over and over again in each moment of each day. And also, we can offer our unconditional obedience to the best of our ability. Of course, we have habits we need to overcome, and so we can't completely offer our unconditional obedience until we're actually masters of ourselves. But we can do our very best to offer our obedience to the Guru, to practice the things that they have given us to do, to practice, if we're Kriyabans, practice Kriya Yoga twice a day, practice energization, and practice selfless service to others as a way of overcoming ego and introspection. So we are going to chant again.
Let's take this chant, Om, Christ Gurus, into our hearts, lifting it up to the point between the eyebrows, calling for the Guru, calling for his enlightenment into our very being. Christ Guru, God Christ Listen to my heart song. Listen to my soul song. Listen to my heart song. In secret in my soul, I will gather blossoms for thee. Dip in the wind and ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Dip in the wind and ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Listen to my soul song. Listen to my heart song. Listen to my soul song. Listen to my heart song. In secret in my soul, I will gather blossoms for thee. Dip in the wind and ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Dip in the wind and ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Listen to my soul song. Listen to my heart song. Listen to my soul song. Listen to my heart song. In secret in my soul, I will gather blossoms for thee. Dip in the wind and ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Dip in the wind and ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Dip in the wind and ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Listen to my soul song. Listen to my heart song. Listen to my soul song. Listen to my heart song. In secret in my soul, I will gather blossoms for thee. Dip in the wind and ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Dip in the wind and ocean, I will lay them at thy feet. Dip in the wind and ocean, I will lay them at thy feet.
Let's meditate now for about 5 or 6 minutes. remaining in a meditative state, I'd like to share a poem by Paramahansa Yogananda with you. He wrote this poem as God, God, God. But then he did a recording, and in this recording, he shared it with the words God, Christ, Gurus, similar to the chant we just sang. And so I'd like to share it with you in this form now. And tune into the Guru's presence as you listen to this poem. From the depths of slumber, as I ascend the spiral stairways of wakefulness, I will whisper, God, Christ, Gurus. Thou art the food, and when I break my fast of nightly separation from thee, I will taste thee and mentally say, God, Christ, Gurus. No matter where I go, the spotlight of my mind will ever keep turning on thee. And in the battle din of activity, my silent war cry will be, God, Christ, Gurus. When boisterous storms of trial shriek, and when worries howl at me, I will drown their clamor, loudly chanting, God, Christ, Gurus. When my mind weaves dreams with threads of memories, then on that magic cloth will I emboss, God, Christ, Gurus. Every night, in time of deepest sleep, my peace dreams and calls, joy, joy, joy. And my joy comes singing evermore, God, Christ, Gurus. In waking, eating, working, dreaming, sleeping, serving, meditating, chanting, divinely loving, my soul will constantly hum, unheard by any, God, Christ, Gurus. I'd like to share with you now a little of the early life of our Guru Paramahansa Yogananda, and then Chandi will share a little later on, a little more from his later life. Even as a boy, Yogananda had a deep longing to know God, and he was particularly dedicated to finding God through sadhana, through the practice of meditation. And of course, Yogananda is an avatar. He was fully awakened in a previous life. But when such a one comes into a new life to help others to find God, he has to reawaken that awareness of God's presence. And this is a way for the Guru to set an example for the rest of us. And so he came into this life. He had been fully awake in his previous lives, but he had to reawaken that. And he was filled with determination to know God. He was filled with deep yearning to know God. And in the beginning, in his early life, when he was very young, he had a practice with his mother of going to a statue of Kali that was made by his own mother. I think Yogananda might even have helped her make it when he was a little boy. They had a statue of the goddess Kali, so they worshipped the Divine Mother, and they had a ritual to go out to this statue every morning and to pray and to meditate. And Yogananda also meditated before an image of Lahiri Mahasaya. Lahiri Mahasaya was the guru of Yogananda's parents, and of course he also was the guru of Swami Sri Yukteswar, who was to become Yogananda's guru when he became an adult. He would meditate before this image of Lahiri Mahasaya. Lahiri Mahasaya would become a full-size person meditating in front of him, and he would bend to touch his feet, and then he would become an image again. Even when he was only 8 or 9, he began to practice meditation very deeply. He would do Hangsa for hours. He would often do Hong Sa for 2 hours, and sometimes he would even practice Hong Sa for 8 hours. He was very dedicated, as I said, to finding God through the practice of meditation. He learned Kriya Yoga from his father, and then also later from his Sanskrit teacher, Shastra Mahasaya. And he had a close friend who became known as Swami Satyananda, and he brought him along with him, and they both had a kind of initiation into the practice of Kriya Yoga from Shastra Mahasaya. And his friend Satyananda said, I was surprised to read this. I recently read a book by Satyananda about Yogananda, and he said that when he first got Kriya Yoga, he, like many of us, struggled with that practice. He didn't struggle in doing it, but he didn't get instantaneous results, and he had to really focus. He had to practice just like the rest of us, and he had to really give it his all. But in his own words, in Satyananda's own words, he struggled at first with the path of Kriya, like many of us, but had a determination and zeal for sadhana unparalleled amongst his friends. Many of Yogananda's boyhood friends were deeply inspired by Yogananda's example and by his life, by his yearning to know God. And in fact, many of his close friends, the people that he kind of led them. He was not their guru, he was their friend, but he was kind of a leader of the group. And he would encourage them to practice meditation, to serve the poor, and to do all these things that led to liberation. And these friends, many of them went on to become swamis in their own right. Many of them went on to become Kriya masters who would give Kriya and have disciples later in life. So he deeply inspired these friends and led them into very, very deeply spiritual lives, which they carried with them to the end of their lives. Yogananda lost his mother at a very early age, and he felt a deep longing for his mother, and he had an experience with Master Mahasaya. You might have read about this in the Autobiography of a Yogi. He went to meet Master Mahasaya. This is a different Mahasaya, not his Sanskrit teacher. And he went to meet this saint who was a disciple of Ramakrishna. And Master Mahasaya happened to have moved into the house that Yogananda lived in when he lost his mother, when she passed. And so he went into that house to meet with him the first time, and he was filled with anguish at the loss of his mother. And he asked Master Mahasaya to intercede on his behalf with Divine Mother. He knew that Master Mahasaya was on intimate terms with Divine Mother, that he spoke to her and that he heard her speaking back to him. And so he asked him to intercede. And then Yogananda went home that night and he meditated, and Divine Mother appeared to him, and she said, "Always have I loved thee, ever shall I love thee. It is I who loved you through those two lost black eyes," meaning the eyes of his beloved mother. And Satyananda said, "We have seen that if there was reverence for any woman, the essence of the Divine Mother would immediately awaken in Mukunda's heart," Mukunda being the boyhood name of Paramahansa Yogananda. As you may also have read in the Autobiography of a Yogi, Mukunda ran away to the Himalayas. He attempted to do so a couple times, but the second time he actually got deep into the Himalayas with a couple of friends. And of course his brother found him and brought him back, and his father asked him to stay put, to save until after he finished high school his desire to go to the Himalayas to find God, and Mukunda promised that he would. Yogananda's friends began to call him Sadhu Mukunda, And it was interesting because his friends called him this with reverence. And then other associates or other people he knew in school, some people called him that in a more mocking way. So it was interesting how this term was used both in a dear way by his close friends and in kind of a mocking way by others in his school. Of course, as Yogananda said in his autobiography, he also was called Mad Monk at times. So he was very intense in his desire to know God. And I mentioned earlier that he was not a guru of these friends who had gathered around him, although he was their leader in a sense. But at a certain point, many of them began to call him friend guru. And some of these people had become disciples of his Sanskrit teacher because Yogananda brought them to him and, took Kriya initiation through him and became disciples. And some of them became disciples of Yogananda's guru in time, Swami Sri Yukteswar. And so they called their guru, their quote guru, Guruji, but they called Yogananda friend guru. It's kind of a sweet little thing from this interaction that he had with his friends. Satyananda said in his book, Mukunda engaged himself in that sadhana with his whole being, and within a short time became absorbed in the experience of listening in ecstasy to the divine sound and seeing beatific revelations and divine light. Yogananda's divine life was founded in hallowedness in his heart. That light remained ever undimmed throughout his entire life, and the profundity of that experience kept him always spiritually aware in many complex situations. These friends that Yogananda hung out with or spent time with, and particularly Satyananda, Yogananda began to advise them to go deeper and deeper into meditating and to, as I said, serving God. They served the poor. They were doing all these activities to overcome ego. And Yogananda said, we need to meditate more. We need to meditate in the evening. And they began meditating at night, all night long. They would spend the entire night. Yogananda, his room was actually the living room of his house. That's where he slept. And his friend Satyananda would sneak over, and they thought they were fooling everyone. But Mukunda's father actually knew what was going on. But he would come and he would knock on the door and he'd come in the room, and they would quickly turn on a light, a little lantern. Back then they had oil lanterns, and pretend they were studying late at night for high school or whatever. But of course they were meditating. And Yogananda's father would kind of smile and he would leave. And of course he knew what was happening. But it's another sweet part of the story of Yogananda's early life. At that time, they began to, on some occasions, to meditate very, very, very long hours. And Satyananda said that Yogananda, they would meditate together, and then naturally they would come to a point of breaking, and they would stop meditating. And Satyananda would be like, kind of relieved, because it was intense to meditate for several hours and to get a break. But he said Yogananda, it was different for him. He would simply break as if you would take a break from work. There was no sense of, oh, that was intense, we meditated for 6 hours. And they would take a break and they would come back to meditation even for more hours. And like I said, for Satyananda, it was very intense, and he would be like relieved, and Yogananda would simply be in the calmness, in the bliss of God, and he would take a little bit of time in some other activity, and then he would come back to his practice of sadhana. Satyananda said, for an ordinary person, The awakening to the Supreme Consciousness happens by taking up hard practice and non-attachment. But for one like Mukunda, the brilliant light of that Supreme Consciousness is revealed by the slightest touch of true beckoning within. Let's chant again. Are we going to meditate or chant? Let's
Chant.
see. We're going to chant again.
Open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Wilt thou come, just for once come to me? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day. Night and day, night and day, Many of these chants, Yogananda said, this chanting is half the battle. So we can use these chants not just in our sadhana, but also throughout our day when we're feeling like we need the presence of God. Just chanting Om Christ Gurus. I know I did that just the other day. I was struggling. I just went Om Guru, Om Guru, Om Guru, Om Guru, Om Guru. Just to bring that reminder back to us once again of being close to the Guru, to uplift us. I thought I would do a little reading today. Suryadas actually we often, we don't practice together about what we're going to say. So there may be a little repeat in some of the things that I'm going to say based on what he presented to you. What I'm going to be talking about is a reading from the New Path, just a little bit of that, and then going into my own reflections. This is from the New Path. On January 5th, the disciples gathered at Mount Washington to celebrate Paramahansa Yogananda's birthday. So this was later after he came to the West. As the function began, we went to him individually and knelt for his blessing. After a banquet, later he spoke of his longing to see an awakening of the divine love throughout the world. In a more pleasant vein, he continued, I never dreamt during my first years of teaching in this country that such a fellow feeling in God's love would be possible here. It exists only because you have lived up to the ideals that I have cherished and for which I lived in the company of my great Guru. So Yogananda brought these high ideals to all of us, and during the full moon, which is the full moon after the solstice, we, as Suryadas mentioned, it's this auspicious time when the light is very, very bright and the Guru is present and can enrich our lives. We take this time at this time of year to really focus in on that deep yearning. Many people used to say to Kriyananda and in the West, do I really need a guru? And he would say no, to their surprise. And to many of our surprise, too, as we sat in the audience. I think the first time I heard that was in Portland, Oregon. But, he said, if you want to find God and be self-realized, we need a Satguru to guide us. And so I always love the story, and I've told this many times, so bear with me, but I think it fits here, about, told by Ramakrishna, which was also very deep, a deep guru, or deep soul to Yogananda. And there were three men that were walking in a field one day, and they saw this place, and they were intrigued by it because it was big, huge walls all around in this field. And they wanted to climb it, but they knew they couldn't. So there was a barn close by, and they found a ladder there. At least this is what the story is. And behind that wall, they could hear music and instruments and singing, and they just were so intrigued. So the first disciple climbed the wall, and he became filled with joy when he viewed over the side of the wall. He looked back at his friends and he said farewell, and then he dashed over, jumped down off the wall. The second devotee looked up and saw the same thing and felt like that urgency to climb over the wall. And he got to the top and he did the same thing where he climbed over in ecstasy to become one with everything that was going on. And the third devotee climbed up using all his will. He held back. No one knows really why he didn't jump over, but he decided that he was going to go back to the marketplace and rejoice with everyone about what it was like to be able to climb up that wall, but then come back to help others find their true home in thee. So this is what the Guru is. The Guru, it takes care of us. The Guru is here to lead us back to our home in thee. So it's just that allegory. That's all he wants for us, is our true identity of soul nature, and to release the ego. And these other two devotees really, they had ego because they wanted it for themselves, and he withdrew and wanted to share it with all. The great saints come back again and again to teach us that higher reality. Ultimately, God is the Guru, as Suryadas mentioned. Our soul nature we go through hard knocks of life when we're beginning on our spiritual journey, and we start to call out to God. I know that for myself, it was very apparent, and I kept saying, God, show me the way, show me the way. Because this isn't it, this isn't it. I kept turning, and I needed someone to guide me. Then he brought me teachers along the path. He brought me other books to read. I kept praying, keep showing me the way. And then he brought me the Autobiography of a Yogi. That picture of Yogananda just drew me in, and it changed my life from that point on. So the Guru comes when the disciple is ready, when the disciple has searched and is able to really be aware of that inner reality themselves, and they're able to pursue the deeper teachings. So now we turn all our love and our devotion back to God alone in that inner search. The purpose, this is a quote from Yogananda, the purpose of the Guru is not to weaken your will. It is to teach you the secrets of developing willpower, that inner power, until you can stand unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds. Isn't that true today? What's going on? You know, that inner knowing that this is all there that really matters, is that inner self-surrender that we have every day. The purpose of our gurus, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahasaya, Sri Yukteswar, and Paramahansa Yogananda was the mission of inner communion, not so much of the outward worship which we've had in so many ages. This is the age of the time of knowing God has come. This is the time of inner communion. And our path envelops both the East and the West in these teachings through the Bible and through the Bhagavad Gita. We want to stress that inner communion in our sadhana through the daily practice of Kriya, through the practice of chanting, practicing the presence of God in every moment in our lives. And they will guide us back to our home in Thee. Let us on the path breathe it, live it, and also bring God into every moment wherever we are. And we want to practice that daily. I remember years ago, I used to ask often, I used to push-up, putting on labels. And I thought to myself, how is this practicing the presence of God? This is so many years ago now, probably 20 years ago now. And someone told me at that time, bless every piece of merchandise and label that you put on it, and that can become your practice. So take a small portion of your day and feel how you can practice the presence of the Guru, the presence in your life, and how to expand that outward to bless others. Our lives in Him have become really the guidepost or the pole star of our lives. And just bringing it back to the reading that Yogananda held those high attributes for those young disciples coming in the 1920s. Let's too hold those high ideals that he so wanted for us to be able to live our lives for him. Om Guru.
I'd like to share a video with you now that was created a few years ago. I think it might have been the 75th anniversary of the Autobiography of a Yogi. The Autobiography of a Yogi, of course, is Yogananda's greatest book, and one that has brought millions of people to the spiritual life. And so I'd like to share this video with you.
Paramahansa Yogananda, author of Autobiography of a Yogi, was the first yoga master of India to live and teach in the West. Arriving in 1920, Yogananda barnstormed across America. Enthusiastic audiences filled the largest halls to hear him speak. For over 15 years, Yogananda crisscrossed the U.S., giving lectures and classes in scores of major cities. Yogananda's initial impact was truly impressive, but his lasting influence is greater still. He was a true spiritual revolutionary, whose message of joy is as vital today as ever. In 1946, Yogananda published his Autobiography of a Yogi, one of the most influential books of our time. Autobiography of a Yogi helped launch and continues to inspire a far-reaching worldwide spiritual revolution. Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi has sold well over 10 million copies and has been translated into 34 different languages. Probably the most shared book in the world, well-loved copies passed with enthusiasm from friend to friend. The number of people who have read the Autobiography of a Yogi could easily surpass 30 million. More than a book, Autobiography of a Yogi is a cultural phenomenon. In 1967, the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The cover included pictures of Yogananda and his line of gurus, Sri Yukteswar, Lahiri Mahasaya, and Babaji. Beatle George Harrison remained inspired by the autobiography for the rest of his life. He often gave copies away to people he met, from Gary Wright to President Ford. Yogananda has influenced generations of artists, authors, activists, and scientists, including Mahatma Gandhi, Elvis Presley, Russell Simmons, Ravi Shankar, Thomas Mann, Marianne Williamson, Steve Jobs, and hundreds of others. Ravi Shankar, eminent musician and composer, said, "I have read many books on yoga by yogis, but I was never as impressed as with this book. It has some magic in it." Jack Canfield, author, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur, said, "You would be hard-pressed to find anyone on the spiritual path whose life has not been influenced by this profound work of literature. It started me on the path of yoga, meditation, and self-exploration that has continued until this day."
Let's meditate for a few minutes. peace. Amen. And I apologize, that video was longer, but we had a technical problem, but it was nice to see the part of it that we saw. And now we will chant Jai Guru. And Jai Guru means victory to the Guru. And the Guru's victory is our victory. When we succeed, when we find God, and even in the little things, when we make choices that take us towards God, towards the light, towards our true soul nature, each time we do that, it's a victory for the Guru, and it's a victory for us.
Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai Guru, Jai. Paramahansa Yogananda, Jai.
And now we'd like to give you an opportunity to make a flower offering to the Guru. And if you're not a disciple of Yogananda, you can make a flower offering to that light that is ever calling us to come back to our state of oneness with God, to come back to the joy of the soul. And so we'll we'll have a video of the altar with some close-ups, and you can offer your flower before your screen, or if you have your own altar, you can offer a flower at your own altar. And again, if you don't have a flower, simply visualize an offering. The important thing is to offer the heart, to offer your life to the Guru.
I have made thee pole star of my life. I have made thee pole star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee, O star of my life. I have made thee, O star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee, O star of my life. I have made thee, O star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee, O star of my life. I have made thee, O star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. I have made thee, O star of my life. I have made thee, O star of my life. Though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, though my sea is dark and my stars are gone, still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy. Still I see the path through thy mercy.
And now Chandi and I will make our flower offering. The song during the flower offering was, of course, Swami Kriyananda singing Pole Star of My Life. And this is from an album that Swamiji made a long time ago, probably in the 80s, called Music for Meditation. And I used to have a little cassette of this recording of the whole album. It had several songs. And Swamiji just plays the melody only, no drone, through all the songs. But I used to go for walks. I was new on the path at that time, and I would listen with headphones to this album and go for walks. And it just took me so deep and so opened my heart. It was such a blessing, and I love occasionally sharing songs from that album. So let's take a moment now to offer out into the world the light and joy that we feel through this path of self-realization, through our connection with the Guru, through our connection with Divine Mother. Let's open our hearts and send that light out into the world, blessing all souls. You can close your eyes now and take a moment. Visualize this planet. See it surrounded by that light. And especially see that light going into areas of strife, uplifting and bringing comfort to those who are in need, to those who are in need of healing energy, to those who need upliftment and emotional healing. And let's also see that light uplifting the leaders of the world, that they may make more harmonious decisions that will help us as a people to live in harmony with one another and with all life on this planet, and also with the divine will. So let's rub our hands together briskly. And we'll chant Om 3 times, sending that light out into the world. Let's end with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, Great Masters of Self-Realization, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahasaya, Swami Sri Peshwa, and our beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, with the deepest devotion and with gratitude, we offer our lives at thy feet. Beloved Guru, be with us now and always. Guide our steps, guide our thoughts, and all of our activities. Help us to live in attunement with your living presence. Help us to think you near. Help us to know that you are ever with us. And help us to overcome the pole of delusion, the pole of ego, that we may expand our consciousness and live forever in that light, and in the true joy of the soul. We are forever yours. Be thou always ours, and bring us home to thee. Om, peace. Amen. Thank you for joining us this evening. Have a great weekend. Many blessings to you all.